So I still don't feel so well, and I'm just going to apologize to you if I faint or something. I know I'm being extreme. Anything other than that, I'm in good shape, right? So we've been talking about the book by Peter. Where is he? All right, Parker Palmer. His book about the hidden wholeness. The journey toward an undivided life. And the concept of the book is that we all have come into this world with a perfect soul, and then life happens to us, and we get separated from that. And the book and the conversation that we've had over the last month are steps toward unifying and allowing our soul to shine up, to speak in a way that is our natural self, so that we don't present one mask into the world and hold another self or essence, our soul, within. It is commingling and allowing ourselves to be authentic, and to allow ourselves to present to the world from that place of unified integrity with the nature of who we are. So some of the things that he talked about and that we've discussed is creating community and allowing our soul to bubble up. And one of the major tools that I want to talk about today is about telling our story and listening. So mostly it's about listening in a way that is healing and witnessing of the soul as it percolates and allows itself to bubble up. Talking about the morning papers, we talked about that, how as we write our papers or write in our journal, we can be surprised by what bubbles up. And so Palmer Parker is a Quaker by training, and he shares and teaches around circles, what they call clearness committees. And the clearness committees are a Quaker history that dates back to the 1660s. And the way it works is, if someone has a situation, a circumstance, an issue, a challenge, they turn to people that they can trust, and they invite a clearing committee. So the way the clearing committee works is the person who has the problem, the issue, the challenge, however you want to language that, invites people that he trusts, she trusts, to come together in wisdom. That person writes a paper, formulates the problem, and shares it with the committee. And so it's a 2-hour, rather formalized coming together of circle. And the person with the problem or the issue states what is going on for them. And then the clearing committee has one task. And that task is to ask open-ended questions. Questions that will allow the questioner to reflect in such a way that the soul can come up and come forward. So, now the trick is, the questions must be, and we've talked about this before, when we come together in groups, no fixing, no saving, no advising, no setting another one straight. I want you to hear these. No fixing, no saving, no advising, no setting anyone straight. And so when the questions are asked by the committee of 4 to 6 people, they must be open-ended questions that are not subtly directive or subtly judgmental. So, in other words, a question might be, are there other times in your life when you have experienced something similar? That's an open-ended question. A question for the questioner, the quester, to examine and to speak. That's a fair, open-ended question. An unfair, fixie kind of, directive kind of, judgmental question would be, does this make you angry? Because that is like a solution or an idea or a formulation or a judgment about how the questioner thinks. The focus should be, it's really difficult to ask open-ended, non-judgmental, non-directive questions. It's a skill and a real challenge. So the questioner, the focus of the group, the center of the committee, is able to speak and reflect on what they're saying, and thus their soul has an opportunity to shine forth, to shine through. That to me is such an amazing skill or opportunity. Palmer Parker talks about how the solution to so many of our world problems might be something very similar. And he suggests this, and I want to share it with you. Our world problems, we have so many different opinions and different ideas. Abortion, what are some of the other social issues that we are so, as a community, as a country, conflicted about? Politics of any kind. And so coming together in a circle with the understanding that those participants that come together can't voice their ideas, can't voice their prejudices, can't voice their opinion, what they can do is speak to the question of what is it that called you, directed you, helped you come to the solution and the conclusion that you have come to. Not why do you believe what you believe, but what is it that happened? What is your story that brought you to this place? And from that place of telling your story, then a deeper understanding arrives. A deeper humanity flows forth. When I can understand where you, to use the cliche, where you're coming from, when can understand the thinking process behind your belief system, then I can understand you and your point of view. And it's only when we allow ourselves to really listen to another person from that deeper heart space can we absolutely come together in understanding. He tells the story, and I can relate to it, maybe you all can too, from going to a retreat. And during the retreat, every morning they had a meditation. So he arrived just a little bit late, and the only seat available was next to a woman that he could not tolerate, that he despised, that he thought was the devil incarnate, this woman. And he had a choice. He could sit down next to her, or he could turn around and leave. And he thought about turning around to leave. But he braced himself, and he went and he sat next to her. And during the meditation, he was able to forget about her totally. And there was a time and a moment when he opened his eyes and he noticed her hand on her lap, open on her knee. And the light, the sunlight, shone on her hand. And he could see the pulse of her blood in her hand. And that was transformative to him. In the light, he was able to see that no matter what their differences, how abhorrent he found this woman, there was that commonality of the blood, the beating of the heart. How many of us forget the beating of the heart? That we all are connected in ways that are undeniable. We all have our story. We all have an opportunity to deeply listen to folks, to find the story behind people's thinking process. When we walk, as they say, in another person's shoes, then we come to understand them in a deeper way. By asking open-ended questions, by being present to people, we're allowed to heal ourselves. We're allowed to love deeply and richly. One of the greatest, most loving gifts that we can give to anyone is to really listen to them, to hear them. Without interrupting. I don't know about you, but I have often found myself starting to speak before someone has finished their sentence. Not sure if they're through, not intentionally stepping on their words, but not deeply allowing their story to settle with me, interrupting. I've tried to fix people. I've tried to, what were the other things? Save them, advise them, set them straight. I've done all those things. I suspect we all have. But the one gift of love that I have available to me that is free for the giving is to listen to someone, to hear someone's story, to ask the question that is open, non-judgmental, that allows room for healing. When we tell our story, we have an opportunity to heal. When we listen to someone's story, we have an opportunity to allow space, to allow heart to heal. It is in telling our stories that we heal. It's in listening that we are absolutely giving the purest gift of love, without judgment and without criticism. The Dalai Lama said, and I love this line, that, let me just quote it so you get it clearly. When you talk, you're only repeating what you know. But when you listen, you may be learning something new. So listening is a gift to ourselves, and listening is a gift to anyone else. And it is so rare because we all are enculturated with the habit of trying to fix people, trying to solve their problem, trying to. Stephen Covey said this, and I love this too. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. We listen with the intent to reply. Now, I am fully aware that as I speak, there are 35 people listening to me with their own stories and their own conversation going on, right? Absolutely. And we do allow time for you to share your story after the next song. Isn't it wonderful to have a community that makes an effort, no matter how flawed we may be, to give the gift of listening, to give the gift of healing by being available and knowing that the soul is dying to be heard. The soul is dying to step up and be seen, to be heard. Martin Buber tells this story. I'm going to get a little drink of water here. He tells a story about his grandfather who was lame. And his grandfather was asked to share a story about his teacher. And the grandfather, who was lame, said, oh, when his teacher, the master, told the story, when he prayed, he danced and he hopped around and he was animated. And the grandfather got so excited about telling the story of his master teacher who prayed by jumping around and dancing and praying. And he got up from his chair and he told the story of his master and he danced and he hopped around and he was healed. The grandfather nevermore walked with a limp. Walked with a leap. He could leap. He was healed. And Martin Buber said, So I leave you with this question. What story do you need to share in order to heal? I'll be listening for that. I love you all. Namaste.
Namaste.
So I would invite our practitioners to stand with me, join with me. Hold the consciousness. As I allow myself to turn within, as I allow myself to listen for the percolation of my soul. As I allow myself to be deeply, richly in service and in love by listening. Listening to myself and the stories that I need to tell. Listening for spirit speaking through and as my soul. Listening to the still, quiet voice within that is wise beyond measure. In this day, in this moment, I accept the gift of listening. I extend the gift of listening. I accept the gift of my perfect soul. As it begins to flourish and blossom, as it remembers itself and the truth of its being. I know that God is good. I know that there is peace beyond measure at the depth of my being. And as that's true for me, I know it is true for all the 7 billion expressions of spirit, longing to be heard, longing to be acknowledged, longing to be recognized. At this moment, I allow myself to be aware of the vulnerability of the pulse of life that beats within each one of us. The connection of humanity, that's the truth at the deepest level. I am so grateful. I am so grateful for the percolation of the divine that pulses within each of us, that connects us in indefinable ways. And so with gratitude, I step into the silence of all good. I listen. And I invite you to do the same by declaring with me the truth that all is well, and by claiming it by saying, and so it is.